Hey, what you say, food family? Mike here, and welcome back to the channel for another great culinary adventure. Today we're headed across the Pacific to the beautiful islands of the Philippines to make one of my personal favorites, Lechon Kawali, crispy skin pork belly. Yeah, you heard that right. Not only are we making some delicious pork belly today, but we're going to put the recipe to the ultimate test and have an air fryer versus deep fryer showdown. The results may surprise you, so to find out which turns out better, stick around and I'll show you how it's done. Let's get cooking. Alright, before we start cooking this crispy pork belly here today, you may be asking yourself, hey Mike, why did you choose to do the Filipino version versus the more popular Chinese version that's all over the internet? Well, the answer is simple. My goal is to bring global cuisine to your home kitchen. The Filipino version of this dish, Lechon Kawali, uses a few base ingredients that you already have on hand in your pantry, whereas the Chinese version uses other things you're likely going to have to go out and buy. And on top of that, Lechon Kawali, much easier to pronounce. I'm not even going to attempt the Chinese version because who knows how to say that one. Now, today we're going to be using a skin-on pork belly. I got a 4-pound pork belly here. Like I said, skin on. The key here is that skin. You can't have crispy skin pork belly without the skin. The ones sold at your local grocery store are likely skinless, so be sure when you seek this out, you're probably going to have to go to a specialty butcher shop or an online butcher shop and then make sure that's skin on. Now, with that out of the way, let's get things cleaned up and turn our attention to the first steps of making this crispy skin pork belly. The first step to making our lechon kawali here today is to season and boil our pork belly. All we got to do is place our pork belly skin side up in our pot. And then we're going to use 4 simple ingredients like I said earlier. We got some kosher salt, some black peppercorns, some bay leaves, and some cloves of garlic. Now I'm going to cover this with cold water, enough to cover the pork belly, about 2 inches. Throw it on the stove and bring it up to a boil. Once it's boiling, I'm going to reduce the temperature to a low simmer and let that go for 90 minutes. This will fully cook the pork and get us to our next step. Alright folks, welcome back. As you just saw there, we brought this pork belly up to a boil, reduced the temperature down to a simmer, and let that go for 90 minutes. That fully cooked it. Now when it was done cooking, I removed it from the liquids, placed it on this tray on a rack, and let it cool for about 15-20 minutes, and went ahead and patted the top dry. Now those liquids, as you see back here, I'm going to cool off in the pot. I'll skim the fat off the top of that and save that. Next time I make a bowl of ramen, or even a bowl of sisig, sticking with Filipino dishes, using those liquids to cook the noodles or even as a basis of ramen noodle soup is absolutely amazing and free flavor you've already made. So why throw that away? Now that being said, we've dried off the top of our pork belly like I said. We're going to take just a little pricker or a knife or a fork, really anything sharp, and just going to put a bunch of holes on top of this pork belly. They say do 1,000,000 holes. You don't really need that many. The trick is to only hit the skin itself and not go through to the meat below. We want to keep all the juices in the meat, but we want the stuff to come out of the skin. So that being said, I'm just going to go to town here. We'll put it on time lapse, and I'll come back when I'm done. Alright, I think that's sufficient. Went a couple different directions just to make sure we got holes everywhere. I was really careful to only go down about a 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch, no further, to keep things in the skin only. Now I'm going to let this sit for a couple minutes, let the liquids come out of the skin, and we'll pat it dry before we move on to the next step. Alright, we got the holes in our skin, we patted it dry of any excess liquids. Now we're going to move on to the next step of the drying process. In this jar I got just some plain white vinegar. I'm going to dab that all over the top of the skin. Yeah, it sounds backwards, but we're going to put the vinegar on there. That actually helps pull the moisture out and dry it. And then we're going to put a layer of salt over everything. Put that in the fridge and let it sit overnight uncovered. That will truly dry the skin out. So when we cook it up tomorrow in the fryer or the deep fryer, we'll really get that chicharrón crispy skin we're looking for. So that being said, I'm just going to paint a thin layer of this white vinegar on our pork belly, just the skin only. And this actually helps the salt stick to it, so in the long run, you're helping yourself 2 times over. There's a couple other methods out there to dry the skin out. You can use baking soda and salt. If you do that, you got to go back with vinegar to neutralize the baking soda. To me, that's just an extra step. So, like I said, keep things simple. Alright, we got a nice layer of vinegar on there. Now it's got some plain kosher salt, and we'll go to town and really cake it on there. We want a thick layer. Alright, now that we got our salt layer on our pork belly, I'm going to start drying that skin out. Obviously around the very edges, it's a little tough to get it to stick where it's curving down and whatnot. That's where that white vinegar comes into play. It helps out too. With the salt on here now, we're just going to put it in the fridge and let this do its thing overnight. Uncovered, let the air naturally dry this out. You'll actually see the salt get wet as if you check on it over time. And tomorrow we'll come back and we'll begin our ultimate air fryer versus deep fryer Lechon Kawali Showdown. Alright folks, welcome back. Our pork belly has sat as is, uncovered in the fridge overnight. It is time to clean this salt off and cook this bad boy up. So, first thing we need to do is wipe this excess salt off. Just got a plain paper towel here. And you can tell that salt has absorbed a lot of moisture overnight. And you want to make sure to get as much salt off as possible. Alright, obviously when we boiled this pork belly yesterday, there was a lot of salt and other seasonings in that liquid itself, so we want to make sure we get all the salt off. That's a key step here. You don't want it to be overly salty. But other than that, we got all the salt off our pork belly here now, and it's time to cook this thing up. We're going to be frying it today. But obviously, like the video title says, we're doing an air fryer versus deep fryer showdown. So I'm going to slice this in half. Alright, now we got our pork belly sliced in half. We can move on to getting it ready for its final cook. Now for the air fryer, we want to put this in a small tray because you don't want those extra juices and fat running around all over your air fryer to make a huge mess. So what I have found that works perfect, you can either take aluminum foil, roll it up and make a little boat type thing, or these little small aluminum pans for your grill for the grease catches. They work perfect. Sits in there, it'll hold the extra grease. It leaves room all around it to still get cooked in that air fryer. So for your air fryer, we want to set it up like this. For the deep fryer, it is good to go as it is. All we got to do is heat that oil up. Alright, today we're going to be air frying our pork belly at 400 degrees for 20 minutes. Now while that's going on, we're going to deep fry our other piece of pork belly at 375 degrees for about 15 minutes. It'll be in that 13, 14, 15, 16 minutes or so. You know, when you're deep frying stuff, you just check it for its golden brown delicious color, and when it floats to the top, you'll know it's done. So that being said, let me get the oil heated up in the deep fryer. We'll get the air fryer set up at 400 degrees. We'll throw these things in and get them cooked. Alright folks, our Lechon Kawali is good to go. It has been deep fried and air fried. We're going to let it cool in this rack a few minutes. We'll come back, give it a taste test, see how they turned out. Which one do you think is going to be the winner? Our air fried version or the more traditional deep fried version? Stay tuned and we'll find out. Alright folks, this pork belly has rested long enough. I can't wait any longer. I'm absolutely drooling to tear into these things. But first, listen to how that crispy skin turned out. This is the deep fried version. Nice and crispy. And the air fried version. Now you probably don't notice a big difference there. They're pretty much the same. Like I said, they're both cooked exactly the same up to the frying portion, so it really comes down to the taste, so there's nothing left to do but cut into these things and give it a taste test. Alright, I'm going to start with the traditional deep fried version. Cheers. Well, I don't know how to describe that because it is pure heaven in my mouth. You probably heard me bite into it. That skin is pure crunch. Nice crispy pork skin. The fat right beneath it rendered out during the frying process. And then you get down to the soft meat of the pork belly itself. Ooh, wonderful. Amazing. I don't know if you can beat that. But that being said, let's move on and try the air fried version. Cheers. Just like the deep fried version, the air fried version of this Lechon Kawali, nice crispy skin on top. You bite through that, the fat's rendered out as well, right beneath the skin, and then you get to that soft meat of the pork belly itself. Both versions of this Lechon Kawali turned out absolutely amazing. The traditional deep fried version may have a slight advantage because who doesn't love a deep fried piece of meat? But that air fried version, if you're looking just to save a few calories, because we're eating pork belly here, so I don't know what the point is, but it is pretty damn good in itself. If you don't want to deep fry and smell your house up, this air fryer version is a perfect way to make this same dish at home without having to make such a mess. It is what it is. I don't know, folks. If you like what I made here today, be sure to check the link in the description below. That will send you to my website with this exact recipe. And in fact, one thing I left out of this video today was the secret dipping sauce. That is included in the recipe card. And right here, you'll see a spicy citrus sauce. You can dip this pork belly in, either version, air fried versus deep fried. Adds to that flavor, absolutely delicious. So be sure and check that out. Other than that, folks, Mike here signing off. And until next time, just keep cooking. Lechon Kawali. It'll put a smile on your face with every crispy bite.